Welcome back, everybody, to WCS Winter EU. We've got a doozy of a match coming up in just a few moments with Drogo taking on Serral. I'm in control, and that's Fear Dragon 64.
Indeed.
Actually, I've been meaning to ask you, is it Fear Dragon, or is it just Fear Dragon? Is it Fear Dragon 64? Because there it says Fear Dragon, but I know you to be 64.
You know, I have one regret in life, and
okay.
It's only one regret. It's that I added a 64 at the end of my name because it makes it harder for branding.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So it is Fear Dragon, then?
I would just want it to be Fear Dragon. But
I wanted to take this time to make sure we got that really well established. We had a good match. We've had a couple good matches, actually. It's gone the distance in each of them going to that 5th game. We had a comeback, an all kill. What do you call reverse kill is what you'd call it in team
reverse
games.
sweep.
Reverse sweep, I think, is the better way to describe it, with Lambo, but then eventually falling to Ptitdrogo, which I do think, would you say that's an upset? I mean, he's the higher seed, so no, but...
Yeah, I would have actually said, like, 50-50. Those guys have been trading back and forth games, not just across their entire careers, but even in the past month or two. We were talking about that before. They've played each other so many times. There's so many mind games that went into that series. So, yeah, I'm not super surprised, but I could have seen Lambo also advancing.
Okay, well, that's going to set up this next match that we have here on stream in just a few moments. It's going to be Serral taking on Ptitdrogo. And then beyond that, we have Marine and Raynor, of course, waiting at the higher echelons. But this is, you would not say this is 50-50. Serral made a name for himself as the most dominant force I think we've ever had in StarCraft this last year. This year has been a bit of a different story. A couple of still great finishes, but bled. He's bled. I mean, he's lost innovation. He's lost some others. Anyways, before we get into that, here is also, of course, what is at stake, $12,000 for first. And these players have already grabbed for themselves several $1,000s, which is fantastic. But those WCS points also translate to fame and are very important to their career as they can see themselves get to that global finals.
Absolutely. I mean, even each one of these wins right here is an extra $1,000 and more even later on. So big deal. Those WCS points, like you were saying before, make a huge difference, not just for now, but the next couple of months. It's going to make a huge difference in your seeding. Getting easier groups lets you advance on further, earn even more money. It all adds up.
You know, we say it every time, but it is a big deal because this is the first WCS stop. This is our WCS winter, and this really sets the pace for the rest of the year. And that's kind of one of the storylines I want to touch on before we get too far into this. We're waiting to set up this lobby here to get this match underway, but we are going to get our first look at Serral. We saw him in that round of 8, and I would say you'd say disappointing, but disappointing is a weirdly severe word here. But it's somewhat applicable for a player like Serral because there's just so much expected of him.
Yeah, it's so funny because I know I've talked with some of the European players, and the way that they would phrase it is, it's not that he was even playing that bad. It's just Raynor was playing really, really well. Marine were playing really, really well. Serral's still very good at StarCraft. He's still an absolute monster, but he is still looking, at the end of the day, you have to look at the results. He is still looking a little more vulnerable.
He is. Even last year, he was saying IM Katowice was one of the trophies that was missing. It's one of the biggest paydays of the year. $150,000 is just, it is what it is. It's a lot of money. And he was not able to get it. He was denied. So, just missed that. Anyways, and then also at WSG, another big payday, another big tournament. There were some questions about his health. Maybe he was a little sick. We'll have to wait and see. He seems to be healthy and happy here. He's had some time to get adjusted. And this is a guy who is used to winning. So for him to be as the number 3 seed here facing Ptitdrogo, it almost seems beneath him in a strange way. But of course, at WCS, it's never beneath him. He always talks about each of his opponents with a lot of respect. Now, let's talk about Ptitdrogo a little bit, who's also sitting way over there and waiting to get into this match. He looked good against Lambo, but one of the disadvantages, he just showed off his PVZ right now. That was it.
Yeah, he had to go the distance. It wasn't like, oh, I showed 3 of my things, but I still have a lot of this other stuff prepared. But no, he showed literally 5 games of his build orders. Now, it's actually funny. Drogo is in the chat right now, in the lobby chat, saying, like, too bad I can't switch to Terran and do, like, Cyclone Mech or something a little bit different. But we'll see what he's going to be able to bust out over here. He's still had some great execution in his builds. Yeah. So maybe can still leverage that a bit.
I think it'll be interesting because what Lambo showed for ZvP is very different from what we typically see from Serral. A lot of swarm hosts, just a different angle on that matchup. And then Serral, of course, is more known for his pretty standard play, but just great engagements all over the place. And then if he does mix it up, it might be some Nidus or something along those lines. But for the most part, good luck surviving. Hold on in that mid game against Serral because that's kind of where he comes for you.
Okay, well, it looks like the first map is going to be loaded on up. We're going to Year Zero. Already an exciting map at that last series. We're going to see if it turns out to be equally as exciting as we move in. introduce the players in just a second. Remember, this is now the round of 4. Winner is going to be able to move on, face off versus Hero Marine. We're going to be starting, it looks like, in the top right-hand corner of the map. Top of the red Protoss player. Once again, from Team Makers, he is Ptitdrogo.
Mr. Theo here. Had a great PvZ series just before this, hailing all the way from France. These European players travel long ways for these matches. He'll be going up against, in the top left-hand side, one of the most prolific StarCraft players we've ever had from Finland and Team ENCE. It's Serral. We heard this from Rotterdam at the beginning of the show, but a lot is on the line in the sense that if Serral wins this WCS winter, then all things kind of return to normal. Sure, you lose innovation. Sure, you drop some series here and there and don't win the $150,000 massive tournament. Fine, that kind of happened at the beginning of 2018 as well. But WCS, this is where he reigns supreme. Nobody has stood up to him. We've seen Raynor give him a run for his money a couple of times. He's dropped a series in another tournament to Scarlet, but otherwise he just destroys foreigners, and that's what's expected here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really was just GSL versus the world and BlizzCon, the two big things, and now, of course, WSG. But it was mostly the Koreans that really gave him a lot of trouble. So if you can still establish that dominance, we'll see Serral probably still gain a lot of respect for the non-Korean scene, but we'll see how things open up. So far, pretty normal opening for both of these guys. Year 0, nice big map. I know that we saw Drogo do some kind of funny shenanigans the last game or series versus Lambo, where he was doing for some pylon blocks, maybe trying to get Lambo in that last series, try and take like a different third base. Yeah. We didn't really get to see maybe what Drogo's original plan there was, but I wonder if he's going to maybe try and bust something like that out again on year 0.
Well, if he was going to, it's not going to be the pylon block that you were just mentioning, but certainly we could see some of that fantastic Oracle play or some of that high damage off of the Warp Prison play as well. I do like the Ptitdrogo, who's kind of said before, he prepares for these matches. And with the style of this tournament, you don't get to prepare for everybody, obviously. You have some thoughts, you play against them on the ladder, you know what they do very well. This top 6 is anything but a mystery. We've seen these guys play quite a bit. But against Serral, and this has just always been the problem that Serral poses, he's not a stylistic Zerg player. He actually just does whatever the meta is, and he'll do it better than anybody else. So to beat him is to just outplay him. And we've seen that happen in ZvZ, and we've seen it happen in TvZ, which is kind of the question mark in that European scene, right? Is there enough Terrans to give these guys practice? We never see it in the PvZ. He's, stats. Couldn't do it.
All right, well, we're going to see a Phoenix first coming out over here from Drogo. So already a big mix-up from what he was showing in most of the Lambo series, where I'm not sure he made a Phoenix until just like the 5-minute mark at any point in that series. So going to be able to pick off some of the Overlord, shut down some of the map vision and everything. But Adept just confirms the third base, moves back home, knows, okay, Serral's not doing anything super strange, and it's going to be as expected.
Yeah. The Stargate is one of the more fun ways to kind of look at the difference in builds in a PvZ. You're pointing out the Phoenix first, that's nice, and it's going to make Serral have a little bit of a momentary pause where he's like, okay, well, if I can't get a Lingen through the natural, my one Overlord on this half the map dies pretty early on. Is Ptitdrogo trying to be really cheesy and risky, as is, the case for these players that hit the top, like a Serral. Most players look at that and say, well, I'm not going to just play super normal against him, it takes a pretty big risk. So it is going to be something on his mind. But as we can see here, it is just additional Oracle. And then the Robo, so probably into standard Archon drop or something like that. But just denying that information has a chance to throw Serral off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like that Ptitdrogo is just opening up game number 1, trying out something really, really normal, and just kind of testing the waters, see how things are going to go. The Oracle is going to be able to move in over here. There's no Sport Callers, but there's a lot of Queens over at that natural. And the third base has a Sport Caller. Weaken up Oracle, not going to find any damage.
And I'll tell you what, it just kind of, I'm getting all warm and cozy. I've got my StarCraft blanket on, the StarCraft fire is going, but when you watch Serral play, he just does these little things so well. There is no Sport at the natural, because that's the nexus of where all the Queens are, right? The 2 up from the main and the 2 from the natural, they're all there. So Drogo's like, okay, I'll go to the third. Then that's where the Sport Call is. So he gets actually nothing done with that, whereas in the past, we saw the Oracle kill 7 or more drones. And it's that's the kind of damage that Lambo suffers that Serral simply doesn't even sniff at. So already you can start to see the adjustments being made.
All right, Depth's going to be forced back alongside the Phoenix, actually poking back across the map. The Ling's just seizing some control, but we see the Roach Horn being added on. Phoenix goes in for a little bit of scout, sees the lair is on the way, but not quite finished up. And Drogo is going to feel comfortable in getting up that Templar Archives, and I imagine getting up a pretty quick Storm soon behind it.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Rubby. That'll be the kind of typical army composition we see out of Ptitdrogo. But there's a little bit of nervousness. There just has to be. He opened up with a harass opening. Not quite as expensive, right? In the past, it has been double Oracle or something, and I got ahead of myself. I talked about Warp Prism and Archon drop. He's not even doing that. He's favoring the faster third Nexus here, but the point remains, he's done 0 economic damage to Serral. 0, and that is pretty scary to say.
You know, this actually takes me back to, I know I talked to Ptitdrogo a little bit before the round robin, and he told me something interesting, is that he was playing a bunch of practice games against Serral and WSG and everything, and one thing he did say was that in the games where Serral just kind of let him be, where Serral wasn't putting on a lot of pressure and both the players played really, really greedy, he actually said he was winning a decent number of those games, and that's the kind of situation he felt more confident. So I wonder if that is the sort of game he's trying to turn this into. Serral is playing a lot more passive. He's only now getting up that Hydra Den as his 4th base is getting finished up, going into a Lurker Den. We'll see if Drogo is feeling that way.
Yeah. I always find comments like that interesting. And it's not like he's lying to you or saying something different. It's just...
it's not always the full truth. Or
I find practice and tournaments very, very different. When you're getting results in practice in a certain situation, that does mean something. It's not like you ignore it and think it's nothing. But sitting across from Serral and saying, I'm going to beat you as the number 3 seed to advance to play Hero Marine if you don't harass me. And I don't know, that's tough. And not that he was saying that, but more that he's like comfortable with Serral having a gigantic, robust economy and not taking any damage. I don't know.
Especially a Zerg player, right? Usually the Zerg players are the ones that you need to get in. You need to mess up their economy or they just snowball out of control.
Yeah. And here he comes. He's going to spill across the map here. You can see the army advantage in favor of Serral. That is, of course, standard for this matchup. Warp Prism coming out for Ptitdrogo as a big gateway explosion is happening up there. And he's got all the right fixings, right? He's got the Immortals, or a Immortal, as it were, some Templar. But I'm having a little bit of shock. Okay, I like this. So this map calls for this. The Protoss can very defensively sit back and take 4 or 5 bases, and that'll play to his strengths. I'm having a little bit of shock, though. His attack where he moved out and creep and fought Lambo with an army that looked just like this was so unimpressive. I'm like, Ptitdrogo, let that be the game that you never do that again. Against Serral, there's no coming back.
That definitely didn't. That last game versus Lambo did not go well. So we're going to see him sitting back a lot further. He's going to be protecting that 4th base, poking around, making sure his 3rd base is also safe. The Zealots is done along a watchtower on the south side of the map, see everything coming. The Lurkers are getting morphed in, though, and the Oracle, it's very important to keep that alive. Getting the Revelation tags is really, really vital in being able to defend against those.
Lurkers are a lot like Liberators in that if you fight them out mid-map, slow them down, get some storms on them, kind of weaken them and soften them up and then take the fight, much more doable. If they find their way to your 4th or 3rd base, siege up and are hitting the buildings or even are close to it, you're usually really dead because it forces the fight and now you're fighting into super cost-effective stuff. And I don't know that Ptitdrogo is going to be able to deny that situation because he's just not out there.
Army is on the far south side of the map right now for Ptitdrogo, and that Nexus is not quite finished up, but it is barely going to finish in time. Doesn't look like Serral wants to commit too much there. Some Zealots trying to go for a run by. Lurker's going to be able to clean that up pretty quickly, and Ptitdrogo just darting straight up to the middle of the map, getting ready to maybe intercept any army that was moving to his 4th.
And here is him actually doing exactly that for the most part. So no, that Zealot run by did not do anything, but it did discover the Lurkers, which in and of itself is actually pretty good. And this army's kind of sharking around the middle of the map, trying to buy time as his composition behind this adjusts. We see Stargates getting added, fleet beacons, that kind of thing. So he's doing the right thing, and that's good. But it might come at a cost.
Well, he should have recall available at this 4th base if he feels like he needs to use it right now. The Photon Can's going to provide a little bit of vision, but I don't think the Zealots are even going to be able to get on top of the Lurkers. The Roaches take care of all of them. He's trying to come in from behind, but this also might set up for a sandwich for Serral.
I mean, he's actually taking the fight over here. He tried to flank, but he's getting flanked by the army on the high ground and the low ground. Great storms, but it's just a numbers game here. Even if he quote-unquote kind of wins this fight, the cost of it is looking to be perhaps that 4th base. Oh, bad move command too. Unfortunately, going to lose the reinforcements there, and he's warping in on top of Lurker damage.
Oh boy.
Looking bad.
Oracle almost has enough energy for some of those revelations, but he doesn't end up needing them. He's able to pick up those lurkers, pick them off. But Serral has taken another base. He's getting up his Spire. He's, I think, finished up his Hive at this point, so he's going to get ready to move into the Greater Spire. There are Tempests coming out, so maybe Drogo can still make something happen here, but like you said, that was an expensive set of army units to lose for Drogo.
It was expensive. I actually expected it to be worse, though. I think if you take out those Archons and Immortals kind of walking over the Lurkers, and he still has some of those Templar left, it's a really, really good fight for him, and I was underrating the entire time. But as it is, this army getting called in the middle of the map, though. Templar is separated. It's that creep again, and with a full surround here, I was just about to sing the praise of Ptitdrogo, but I'm glad I held my breath because this is all dead.
Yep, and that's all of the Immortals dead. That's a handful of the Archons as well. Actually, that's every single Archon. Right now, Drogo's army is a bunch of Zealots, 2 High Templars, and a Tempest. Not looking too good.
Not the army you aim for, Fear Dragon. And even that Oracle, by the way, it's just like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Whiffs the Storm as well. That's a really, really tough spot. The Hydra's going to continue to move on forward. They got enough damage output to take care of all of these Zealots and start charging on forward. The Tempest whittling away at this army. Maybe wants to try and go after some of the Lurkers, but I don't think Serral gives a damn right now. He is so far ahead in supply.
Nope. The sweet, sweet smothering effect of Serral is just coming over here. This 4th base is going to die. If it was just the 4th base, that'd be one thing, but all the army of Ptitdrogo went into trying to hold on to this. And by losing the army and this 4th base, you're going to get the double Gs. There it is. Serral with the 1-0 so far in this best of 5.
And Jeff, I'm not going to lie, that is the kind of game that I expected out of Serral versus any non-Korean, not even from the last month or two, but from 3-4 months ago when Serral was, quote-unquote, in his prime. That's what a lot of those games look like.
They do. He's just so dominant, so good. We didn't see any super mega flashy micro, but just even the small things, like the fact that he was able to knock down the rocks, get the Lurkers on that 4th base, and force Ptitdrogo to start to try and make anxious and bad decisions, which resulted in a full concave around the Protoss army. And the Protoss army was able to trade out there, but it was then the follow-up, getting these straggling Protoss units in the middle of the map that just snowballed into an immediate victory. And I feel like that's Serral. It puts these players in this position where they're like, I need to make some weird moves, some weirdly aggressive stuff. I got to be out there fighting, because if I just sit back, if I just do nothing else, then he'll show up and with a maxed army and kill me. And it looks like that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did like a lot of the small things. Granted, of course, not being able to put the pressure on. We saw what happens when a Zerg player gets in that situation, but I think Drogo had a lot of really smart army movements, like the army being able to be on the south side, but finding the right opportunity to put some pressure on, darting through the middle of the map, trying to zone out Serral from putting the pressure on his 4th base. He was doing a good job in that kind of earlier mid-game stage, but eventually Serral just got the better end of him, got the Lurkers in the right position, and Drogo just wasn't even there to defend.
The other thing you gotta feel bad too is StarCraft's such a brutal game. There's so much going on that when you're playing someone like Serral, who again last year was the best player, this year not yet, but maybe he gets to that standard again. Small mistakes look so bad. They look so hilarious. Like I'm thinking of the 4 Templar trailing behind, walking on creep. That's something every Protoss has done. Ptitdrogo just beat one of the best Zergs in all of Europe in Lambo in a fantastic series, and then a few moments later he's being made to look like pretty bad. Like that's a big mistake, but against Serral, it's such a big mistake, and he makes it so clear how big of a mistake is, but there's no coming back from it. So it's rough. It's really rough.
I'm really hoping that Drogo is going to have a bit of confidence moving into game number 2 if he can find it somewhere, just because I know he was talking about this in the interview after the last one. He said, I actually can't even visualize myself beating Serral. Like, I want to beat Serral, but I don't even see how that's going to happen right now. And after a game like that, that's one of those things that really just slaps it down and says, okay, no, how do I beat this guy?
Well, despite the insider info you had from Ptitdrogo saying he felt really most confident where he's not touched by Serral and he's able to get to 3 bases totally fine. I mean, that's a Protoss dream. I get that. I think some of that fantastic double Oracle drone sniping, some kind of harass opening, and again, that information denial that we saw in Game 1, but followed with something more aggressive, I believe that to be his best chance. Now, again, he is facing the mountain, the wall that is Serral, so I'm not going to just sit here and be like, no, he's dead, this is a waste of time. I just think it's a very tough call.
I'm with you, and I think a lot of people would probably agree with you. It's, like you said, really tough. I mean, especially you just take even small things like Oracle harassment versus Lambo. Usually at least getting 3 workers almost consistently across every single one of those games to be able to get some good damage done. Doesn't kill a single drone that last game with this Oracle. Granted, it was a Phoenix first, gives Serral a little bit more time and everything, but we're going to see that it's still difficult. Serral's so good at defending that early aggression.
We will, Ravi, as we get into Cyberforce for game number 2 here. In the low right-hand side, oh, excuse me, I was looking at the wrong screen. In the top left-hand side, my apologies, it is the French Protoss from Team Makers, Mr. Ptitdrogo. Hoping to show good games.
Don't we all?
Nope, that's not him. That's
And
him.
starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player sitting up 1-0. It's best of 5. He is Team Ence's Serral.
Player so great they showed his name twice.
640K.
I mean, this could be the year of crossing over 1 million, right? If he has another year close to what he had last year.
Oh man, it's actually insane to think about how much money he earned just last year.
Yeah.
How much of that money actually came from 1 year, not a long, long career.
Yeah, it was like 350 or 400, right? Something like that. Maybe
Oh,
more.
that's disgusting to me. I'm actually just, wow.
It's crazy because if you, again, not to harp on this too much, but just with a player of his caliber, it's worth mentioning. Had he won either or both, Katowice and WESG, he could already be close to over the $1 million mark right now. It's good. It's good to be good at the best game in the world. StarCraft, we love you so much. It's been amazing to have it around this long. And it'll be interesting to see if Serral can ride this, right? So that last game looked to be a return to normalcy. You talked about this Fear Dragon. That's kind of what you get out of him. We didn't see anything super cheesy or crazy. It was just, when I think of Serral, I think of Roach Ravager, multi-harass, multi-prong fights. He added the lurkers, loved that. Just played the map really well, too. It's a very defensive, strong, expand map for Protoss, and yet Serral countered that.
Okay, well, we'll see. So far, we do have that drone make its way over to the natural, just making sure everything's going well. Gonna start mining over there. But Drogo opened up with a Stargate in the last game. Wouldn't mind. I mean, you were talking about all the DT drops of War Prison harassment and everything. That was the thing that really, really impressed me in game number 1. Are we going to see something similar again as we have Twilight Council coming out?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ravi, ask and you shall receive. I don't know that it'll be Dark Templar. I'm feeling it might end up being like an adept timing attack. But the Stalker's going to come out here and try to stop it from scouting. If it takes a little bit of a left, because I think as it is, it doesn't see it. But there's that little
there it
left.
is.
See the pylon, you go towards the pylon, you want to scout what the tech is.
Yeah. That's actually one of those nice little tips for anyone that is learning Zerg or trying to figure out how to scout Protoss players. That's one of the small things I think a lot of players don't initially think about is if you figure out where all the pylons are, you just go look for the pylons.
Sorry, I just had to get that in before. You're right, though.
What?
I think it's a fake robot.
Big robo?
Do it. Cancel it. Do it. He's not going to do it.
Okay.
Dang it. Well,
That was a good attempt. And it's going to be
And
Dark
it's a Dark
Throne.
Throne. It's a Dark Throne. Which I'll tell you what. I mean, it's just going to go into straight Archon drop.
Yeah.
So, is this the same build? I actually didn't catch the beginning
So,
of it.
I mean, I think this is more or less the same build. He said that he had some small change-ups from the typical ones,
Yes.
so I have not been catching on to those. But one thing I do like, even though he went for just straight Archon drops in all of his games versus Lambo, I know in the round robin, he does mix up his Dark Templar Archon drops. Sometimes he'll move in still with the DTs, but he'll move into different bases. He'll split up the DTs sometimes. And I think that's actually something I really like, because it takes the same build and then forces the response to be at least a little bit different from the Zerg.
Well, the biggest difference here is that most Protoss players actually still open Stargate and then followed up with the Archon drop. And he's cut the Stargate out entirely, so it's going to hit a lot faster. It's going to have a lot more gas earlier on, which is going to allow for the things that you just described, like having multiple either Warp Prisms or even DTs hitting one base and Archons at the other. Just the different kind of prongs there, if you will. The downside to this, and the danger, is you're putting all your harass on the back of that Warp Prism. If this falls apart, if this gets deflected, the map control and vision and scouting you get from a Phoenix or an Oracle or both is not there. And then, without the Warp Prism and the Archon dictating the pace of the map, you are just at the mercy of the Zerg doing whatever the heck they want.
Just want to note that while the DTs are actually just going to be walking their way forward, it seems like, there are 0 Spore Crawlers down, but there are 2 Overseers made. So this is a pure Overseer defense here from Serral. We'll see how it pans out. The DTs going to immediately get spotted over to the Warp Prism, not actually too nearby, and that's okay.
He went for something crazy.
The Warp Prism just died.
And the Warp Prism dies. He's going to recall back the Archon. That is finding a curled up $1 bill in a turd that you've had on the back of your shoe all day long.
Has that happened to you?
No, but I imagine make it slightly better is the only point I'm trying to make there.
Yeah, no, that was...
This is a disaster. We need the Roddy soundboard. It's a disaster. This is like really rough.
But still, super dead.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, I mean, maybe he'll get to hold on to the third, but there's zero map control. The Archons, like, at worst, are supposed to fight back creep. They're supposed to kind of keep lane counts in check.
Yeah.
Serral right now has just been handed a golden ticket of like, hey, would you like to drone for free up to 75 or so? You can. Would you like to just surprise him with an army and try to end the game? You can do that too.
Yeah. I mean,
he's got Overseer just perusing everything.
To exactly your point, Jeff, to emphasize how important that War Prism and the Archon drop harassment is, especially given Serral didn't even open up with roaches, which is usually what you want if you're going to be dealing with a bunch of Archons and everything. He just went with pure Lings, gets to move straight into Hydras, of course gets to drone up and everything, and like you said, continuously keep an eye out on Ptitdrogo. Drogo just doesn't really have a presence on the map, and I do at least like that he got a War Prism, because if you're going to be played from behind, at least making some units that allow you to make plays is really, really important.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He's not going to just forever surrender the idea of not being out on the map. And the War Prism does at least represent the ability to be like, hey, if you do something weird, Serral will counterattack and kill you, I guess. But even as it is, this is actually decent, by the way. I don't know how he's getting away with this, but he is.
The War Prism not getting focused right down by the Queen either, so it still has a lot of hit points left over. Starting to run a bit dry in hit points.
Oh my god!
Oh no, not a second one.
But the Archons are dead anyway, so... Well,
that was the expensive part of the drop anyway, so that's really, really not good.
And if you want to spin the recall and get that War Prism back, you go right on ahead, says Serral. Now, there is no fourth base yet, so this was Serral wanting to mix things up himself. And a little bit of the Korean in him, right? You get ahead, the Protoss player kind of falls in their face. Do you take a fourth and drone up and push it long? Well, you can, but that's risky too, right? That gives the Protoss a chance to come back. Nah, just make a bunch of Hydras, make a bunch of Lings, wait for the Baneling speed to finish, and then go kill him.
Yeah, and to put this in perspective, usually one of the things that's quite helpful when you're dealing with a bunch of Banelings or something.
Archons?
Having Archons,
sure,
of course, but also, I mean, even having Storm or something to help deal with the Hydras and everything. Templar Archive's only just now finished. If he starts up Psystorm right this second, it is not going to be done in time for Baneling speed to finish up, and most likely the big attack from Serral.
Right. Well, the other thing worth mentioning, Ravi, is even if he did start up right now, that would be nice, potentially. But a lot of times when you get behind like this and things aren't going your way, you're at least of the mindset that you can't even do it. So it starts affecting other decisions that you make in the game. And Serral did take a fourth, and he's making 10 drones. So as much as I was like, he's just going to go kill him, I was wrong. He's actually going to macro it up. He showed force of strength, so he definitely could have done something aggressive. But Ptitdrogo read it the same way I did. And now he's going to try to recover by taking his own fast fourth. And I like it. They're risky. It's not, you know, we look at it and be like, do you like it, Jeff? Because it seems like he could just die. Yes, he could. But if you just sit back and play safe, you also just die.
Okay, well, lose the two Archons, losing the Sentry, gonna lose an Immortal over here.
Ptitdrogo's not gonna have good feelings about creep after these two series. Like, it seems like every time he walks onto it, he just gets butchered. He did beat Lambo, but it was like off creep, I think.
Yeah. Well, Zealots are going to try and focus fire down the lair. He might actually be able to get close to getting it. The drone's being pulled off the line, though, and the Queen's coming forward. Looks like it's going to be sniped off, and the War Prism is also going to die. Doesn't even get the hatchery. Are we going to see the tap out there? Nope. Okay.
Hold on. But the force tap out's coming. It's 170 supply to 112. And Serral had an idea of playing super safe, but now with the War Prism cleaned up, now with the fourth being saturated, and Ptitdrogo showing... I mean, he just lost his army. We just commentated that. You could have left after that. It's going to be a matter of time here.
Jeff, Serral looks so good right now. I am really, really impressed. And granted, I know Drogo was saying has a little bit of a mental block right now versus Serral. This is just, I mean, it's really looking strong for Serral to maybe make a deep run over here if he's able to beat Drogo. Yeah.
I just realized I'm going to get pretty excited because we're going to have our first Serral interview, and Smix is not here to hog all the mic time. So it's our dream come true. We get to ask him all the questions we want.
How nice is it, Serral?
I just want to know how he feels. That's the first thing we'd ask him.
Archon's actually absorbing a lot of the Baneling hits over here, but they still end up dying.
Absorbing's one way of putting it, I guess.
I mean, an Archon, I think, takes 18 Banelings.
Yes,
something like that.
That's the worst thing, is when you're so far ahead of the Zerg that literally the Banelings hitting is actually fine for you. You're like, oh no!
And also at the same time, the 4th base is getting picked off now. It looks like there's some harassment happening inside the main base of Serral, so he's trying to go for the snipe off, and he does get the snipe off on that lair, so little victories here that are not necessarily going to bring him back in this game, but it's going to give him a little moral victory there. Serral still takes the game, though.
Serral just looking so good, so rock steady here in the Burbank studio. Ptitdrogo having a tough go at it. It's a little bit of column A and column B, right? Serral looks good, sure, but Ptitdrogo kind of looks like a guy in desperation in both these first games. It's like, it's Serral. I got to do something crazy and I got to play weird. If I don't, I'm in trouble.
He definitely tried to mix it up a bit in that last game with the DTs just running over to the 3rd while the War Prism moves into the main base. It's like not a play that you usually see. And we kind of saw why that can fall apart if your opponent is prepared for that.
It's risky. I mean, that's what it's our job to tell you guys right now. It's not like Ptitdrogo does this every single game or something like that. You can throw a hallucination, you can scout for the DTs to be safe, but what he's saying is, I need there to be no detection there. I'm counting on that. If it works out that way and I snipe the 3rd, I can get a cheap win against Serral. But if it doesn't work out, it's disastrous. It ended up being pretty bad. So for Ptitdrogo to go into this game and try some pretty aggressive and risky things, I like that. They're just not panning out right now.
All right, so we get ready to move to game number 3. We're going to find out what the map is in just a little bit. But now this is match point here, so Drogo already not looking super confident in his play right now. Like you were saying, making a lot of risky plays that are huge gambits here. He goes into a situation where he doesn't really have an opportunity to have any of these gambits not pan out. Like you were saying, Serral's not the kind of player who says, okay, you made a mistake over here, I punched it a little bit, but you can still come back into this game. I'm still going to make plays. No, Serral doesn't do that. Serral doesn't give you a lot of opportunities to bounce back in the game.
Yeah, and he was doing okay. Even after a pretty bad opening until this moment right here, and this kind of has happened in both the Serral games, but also in the Lambo series as well, which again, Ptitdrogo did win, so I don't want to bemoan it too much, but like, probing out with the Protoss army, that's something we do, but you need to have force fields to go down to, or you need to have observers in front of you, hallucinations, something to see. Should I be on this creep right now? The only way the answer is yes is if the army's not here of the Zerg, but the army's been there each time. So Ptitdrogo, unfortunately, with that lack of information, has been losing his army for free, and that's not okay as Protoss.
So it looks like the map is going to be Port Alexander, as we'll find out. I mean, Serral has not even really had to mix it up a ton in this series so far. He's been able to kind of just play a little bit reactionary to whatever Ptitdrogo's been throwing at him. I would say the biggest like difference or weird thing that you might say he did was that he skipped Spore Crawlers after he was facing off against the DT stuff and just went for pure Overseer defense, which arguably actually just worked out better because then he just caught the DTs where a Spore Crawler might catch wind of it for a second, then the DT's can escape.
It's just beautiful. It's beautiful Serral logic. You don't have a Stargate. I scouted that. I know this build that you do. We saw it earlier in the series. So no, I don't need a Spore Crawler. Overseers are untouchable to anything you're making off those War Prisms for the most part, and I will be able to see your DTs and win from that. And then from there, I like this too. I misread it. I was talking about how he was massing Hydras and Lings and Banelings to go kill him. But that's the riskier play. Serral's just saying, no, I'm making this in case he feels desperate for like a 2 base or 2.5 base all in. I'll take my 4th. We'll go from there. It's just good seeing systematic Serral play here. He's not taking risks. He's not playing crazy. Like you said, he's not mixing it up too much. We've seen some difference in tech, but for the most part, it's been 3 going on 4 base. Absorb their harass, kill them.
All right, well, this guy down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map has got to turn this series around with 3 wins in a row if he wants to come back in it. He is the Red Protoss player, Ptitdrogo.
And in the top left-hand side, the Night King himself from Team Ents, it's Serral. Coming all the way from Finland. Looking good. Setting up perhaps a rematch with Hero Marine, a player that 2-0'd him in the round of 8, which was a very big shock. We didn't even have it on the mainstream because we're just kind of like, all right, Hero Marine, Serral, I'm sure it'll be fine. Not today.
You know, I'm actually really happy you mentioned the whole Serral looking like he's back in form and everything, and if he wins this event, that really sets the stage to say, no, Serral's still the best non-Korean that we got. And I think even his gauntlet is just going to be, you know, one of the best Protoss players that we got in Europe, with Ptitdrogo and everything. We got arguably the best Terran player with Hero Marie, and then arguably the next biggest contender for Zerg player with Raynor. It's kind of that next gauntlet of each one of the best races just straight in a row, back to back. Serral's going to have an interesting bracket ahead of him if he is able to topple Drogo in this game.
And Redemption. Hero Marine and Raynor were the two players that beat him in that round of 8 to put him in this perilous spot. But I do, again, like what Rotterdam said, that opening segment, talking about how, at the other side of the things, if Hero Marine were to win, that'd be one of the first European Terran champions we've had in a while. It's been a long time coming. He's been working really hard. If Raynor is to win, a lot of the hype we've been talking about would finally be realized. He's extremely good. We all know that. But he hasn't really gotten that big win yet. And winning WCS Winter over a Serral, over a Hero Marine, yeah, that would pretty much solidify his coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you're just actually reminding me, it's been such a long time since we have had a non-Korean Terran winning a big Premier tournament. It used to be a page on a Ligulac for that, counted down the days.
Really?
It used to, I think at one point it hit over 1,000 days, so it doesn't happen too often.
Terran outside of Korea has always been a thing. It's been, I mean, not that Terran players need to hear this, but I will say, I think it's the hardest race to play. Their late game army is extremely difficult, and then just the way harass works in this game, it's tough to beat Terran. But when you get it going right, you can end up being a Maru or a TY or some of these guys where they make it look like it's well-deserved.
Yeah. Well, Stargate opening is going to be coming out. The Ling makes its way into the natural, but the Overlord did not make its way into the main base, neither did any of the Lings, so this is going to go unscouted for a little bit. We saw how dangerous that got for Lambo. Actually, no, did he make his way forward? No, he did actually get far enough in. So he saw this Stargate. That's going to actually be a pretty important reveal, so it's going to allow Serral to get down the support callers if he needs to, add in the queens, get in the right position for everything.
He did see it as it's warping in, though, so not when it's warping in the craft, so he does not know if it's Phoenix first or Oracle first. Ultimately, it doesn't change things too terribly much for Serral. I'd be shocked to hear otherwise. He's still just going to have the queens, probably adds the support crawlers, and now the Ling spots the Oracle coming out. And it will be that second Oracle as well, and Ptitdrogo, I think he's got some of the best Oracle control I've ever seen, which is actually a funny thing to say, because it's very difficult to control them. They're slippery, but we'll see if he can make it work against Mr. Serral.
Kills off a larva that was producing a drone. Not quite the regular drone kill since you get the resources back, but it does delay some of that droning a little bit, kill some more larva. Drogo, I really feel like, especially for a player like Drogo, you're just complimenting, he's so good with that Oracle control. Very safe kills there.
Yeah, he's waiting for the second Oracle. That's kind of when he does his big, more aggressive dive. And again, he's so good with this that we've seen 6 or 7 drones die. He actually kind of often loses the Oracle, which is still okay. But this is Serral. So Serral's getting that damage earlier on and has still not lost a drone. And as they do take those shots, their ability to dive on the mineral line gets diminished because their shields are gone and their health is low. So for right now, he's been stymied.
Well, Adept actually getting picked off over here. There's enough Zerglings that could maybe threaten the Stalker, but the rest of the Adepts come forward. The Oracles even come all the way back home. He's got 3 Oracles that have now been revealed as well. Adepts going to be making their way across the map to join forces. And one Link sees them going, though.
Serral is the most informed StarCraft player I've ever seen. His Lings are always seeing tech. He's always scouting. He's getting run-bys. It's not like he's lucky. Nobody should ever say that. He's just so consistently good about that, and it's so incredibly cool to see. Because now these Adepts are supposed to be paired with Oracles. Very often he'll do a run-by, like at the ramp at the natural, but he won't be able to.
Well, these Adepts are going to be able to shade out, escape the full surround over there. He gets a decent number of workers, but I think he did sacrifice, what, 1 of the Oracles there and a lot of the hit points on the rest. Still gets out with all the Adepts, so would you say that's worth it?
So here's the thing. You're not asking a bad question. It is okay, but the reason it's not great is that this is 3 Oracles and like 7 Adepts for, what was that, 4 or 5 drones? They didn't die, and that's okay, but as the game goes on, those Adepts become obviously a lot less significant. They're like going to stop Lings from running by, but they don't contribute at the Roach stage. And then 3 Oracles is weird. If you go into Swarm Hosts or Ravagers, yeah, they're pretty relevant, but 1 or 2 is really all you need. You just need to be constantly able to scout. The third one also doesn't add much, and actually did the third one die?
The third one did die,
Okay.
yeah. So definitely not super ideal on that front. The Lynx are continuing to poke forward, get an idea of the scout or the army composition, but also the Nidus Swarm in production right now from Serral. Didn't really take a fourth base either, and with a lot of roaches and lynx coming out on just 53 workers, seems like he's looking to maybe go into the main base. There is a scouting pylon on the bottom left-hand side of Ptitdrogo's main.
Oh, man.
There is also a dark spot there just above it.
6 gateways are just about to finish. And he's not going into Immortals. It was going to be like Charge-Led Archon. He is going to have Charge, and he's going to have an Archon or two.
Okay.
But the Roaches and Ravagers composition specifically is really good about what it's facing here, and I'm getting to be pretty worried for the livelihood of Ptitdrogo.
I really like this. Oh boy, and now we see the Lynx skips around. He doesn't actually decide to pounce, and he decides to back up to the Nidus Swarm with another Nidus Swarm going up inside the main base. Oracles have an opportunity to maybe pick it away at the Nidus Swarm, but he's just going to go after some of the Ravagers. And
Yeah,
those Zealots on top of it.
They'll stop it. I'm just worried for the main fight. This army here is not great.
Shield battery? Nope, not going to be enough. The Archon goes down, and oh my god, the Corrosive Bile lands directly on top of most of those Adepts. The Oracles are putting in some serious work here. 10 more Roaches on the way. It looks like 6 drones have died thanks to the Zealot harassment. So Drogo putting on the aggression while also putting up a really solid defense so far.
Yeah.
Still looking scary, though.
If he can defend, he wins. He's on 3 bases versus a 3-base Zerg. The drone damage is good. It puts Serral is already all-inning down below 50 drones.
That charge.
He's finding the Niduses.
Yeah. Adds in a bit of extra DPS with charge. He's going to be able to shut it down before anything even pops out. The Roach ball is growing, though. Queen's going to be able to make a lot happen here. The Ravager's also going to prevent a lot of force field usage here. One force field does come down. The Archon gets focus fire down. The Zealot's putting in some work, but is it actually going to be enough? Even the Oracle's getting pushed back thanks to the Queens.
Yeah, if he had like a Dark Shrine or something here, I'd feel so much better about it, but the shield gets triggered on that Immortal. Shield battery is out of energy. Probes being pulled. They're not going to hold. The Queen's out of that fire base that's too good, and now the Immortal gets isolated. Ptitdrogo's out of tools. This Archon also trying to warp in. It's not going to see the light of day, and that's going to be it. 3-0. The first one we've had on either the NA or the European side will go in favor of guess who? It's Serral as he cleans up on Ptitdrogo. A valiant effort, but just not enough, Ravi.
He's still got it. Serral is still looking strong.
Look at the old man go.
It's like, all right, let me come over here, shake your hand. But that April Fool's Day article on Team Liquid is quite wrong. Serral is still looking very, very strong, and he's showing it. It wasn't just, managed to swat down like a lesser player thing. Drogo looks so good versus Lambo. He was doing some amazing execution and everything, and Serral still just says, no. My defense is immaculate. You are not going to be able to touch this.
Well, it shows the respect that this scene has for Serral, that Ptitdrogo, who has been doing so well, did play so great against Lambo, goes into this series and gave it his best shot, but for the most part looked pretty floundering. It looked like he was a guy kind of scrambling for ideas. And in that game number 3, his defense was good. He had some great ideas, but at the end of the day, his army comp against specifically Roaches, backed by some Queens at the end there, just wasn't going to cut it. And that does mean that Serral will be able to move on. So I think we're going to look at the bracket here and see this next matchup as he's set up to face off against Hero Marine, who has been looking absolutely amazing himself. He's been beating some Zergs right and left.
And just a reminder that Hero Marine was one of the 2 players that beat Serral in that round robin, that put Serral on this spot because all the players seated in his bracket got here thanks to their performance in the round robin. Raynor, of course, doing really, really well, being in the grand finals already. But Hero Marine, I'm really looking forward to it. And the cool thing about the Hero Marine games is it wasn't some cheesy, weird, like proxy thing. It was Hero Marine just played really, really solid macro Terran.
Wow. Yeah, talk him up with Serral just 7 feet away from you. Talk about that Hero Marine matchup real well. In any second here, we're just about to show that graphic so we can make the magic happen of Serral come right over here, because you guys didn't see him, and in a second we're going to pull him out of a hat. But there's that bracket. We're down to our final 2 matches, Serral versus Hero Marine, and the winner will go on to take on Raynor. But as I have conveniently said this several times, I've bought just enough time for us to be almost ready to now go. There!
Man, aren't you glad that
Look at that.
time isn't playing today? I would have given you so many puns for that.
Serral, congratulations. It's, of course, my distinct honor to be able to ask you this question. How does it feel to have won that match? You must just be, you feel so good, I imagine, right?
Feels extremely good, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, very good, very
I could
good.
feel it. I could feel it, so I wanted the audience to know it. No, but well done. It was a 3-0. I guess we can ask you a couple of questions about the match. It was pretty straightforward. That last game, for me, was the most interesting in that you kind of dipped into the Nidus all-in. You've talked a little bit in the past about it being something you're not as familiar or comfortable with. You've obviously put in a lot of practice. How do you feel about it now? Because I feel like you won, but it was close, right? He got you down to 47 workers, and if he holds that third, you're in a lot of trouble, but he was just never going to hold, I guess.
Yeah, well, I was a bit not in the best spot there that game, so it was kind of just a frustration. And
Okay.
I mean, not necessarily frustration, but I just kind of wanted to finish the game. Didn't really feel confident in the going a macro game of that. So yeah, I mean, I'm still not practicing that kind of stuff too much, but I don't think it takes too much practice to actually execute a roach all in with the Nidus. So
Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
not too much.
yeah, so that game was it was a bit tough game, but I felt like he was a bit late with the immortal production, and that was the reason why I managed to break him.
Okay, Ravi, got anything?
Yeah, I know that one thing Drogo had mentioned to me that's, I mean, clearly kind of just disproved is that Drogo felt like practice games at WSG and everything, a lot of the macro games were the situations that he was able to maybe have closer games or take games off of you and stuff. Do you feel like macro games are maybe one of the places in PvZ that you were a little bit lacking for? But, I mean, you look really strong there, so.
Not really. I mean, I like to
Yeah.
play macro games if I get there with the even table
Yeah.
or ahead. I was up for a macro game.
Yeah.
So not really, but obviously Drogo's a very good player, and him taking maps off me isn't really a big surprise to anyone.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Now, this just set up you against Hero Marine, and Hero Marine was able to 2-0 you in that round of 8. And you've been having, for Serral standards, a little bit of a rough go with ZvT these days. How do you feel heading into the ZvT with Hero Marine in the sense that he's beaten you only a couple weeks ago, but it's a new day?
I'm not too worried about that specific series. At least if he's gonna go with the same style, I feel very prepared. But obviously it's gonna be a very hard match. I kinda right now actually feel pretty confident in CVT again. I mean, I have actually been feeling confident in CVT all the time lately. I'm just maybe lacking a bit of practice, but I kinda know what to do in all the situations and how to play the matchup out. So yeah, I'm very pretty confident, and hopefully I can pull it off.
Okay.
Awesome.
You got anything else? I think that's...
I just actually want to really watch Serral versus Hero Marine. So.
I do too. It's going to be a good one. Serral, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us, of course, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk to you some more. Who knows? And I'll ask you how you feel then as well, because that's what I'm going to do. Guys, thank you so much. We're going to head to a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's going to be Serral doing battle with Mr. Hero Marine, Big Gabe himself.
Going to year 0, already an exciting map of that last series. We're going to see if it turns out to be equally as exciting. He's trying to come in from behind, but this also might set up for a sandwich for Serral.
I mean, he's actually taking the fight over here. He tried to flank, but he's getting flanked by the army on the high ground and the low ground. Great storms, but it's just a numbers game here. Even if he quote-unquote kind of wins this fight, the cost of it is looking to be perhaps that 4th base. Oh, bad move from Mans here. Unfortunately, going to lose the reinforcements there, and he's warping in on top of lurker damage.
Oh boy.
Looking bad.
The Hydra's going to continue to move on forward. They got enough damage output to take care of all of these Zealots and start charging on forward. The Tempest whittling away at this army. Maybe wants to try and go after some of the lurkers, but I don't think Serral gives a damn right now.
No.
He is so far ahead in supply.
Nope. The sweet, sweet smothering effect of Serral is just coming over here. This 4th base is going to die. If it was just the 4th base, that'd be one thing, but all the army of Ptitdrogo went into trying to hold on to this. And by losing the army and this 4th base, you're going to get the double Gs. But if you just sit back and play safe, you also just die.
Okay, well, lose the two Archons, losing the Sentry, gonna lose an Immortal over here.
But the Roaches and Ravagers composition specifically is really good about what it's facing here, and I'm getting to be pretty worried for the livelihood of Ptitdrogo.
I really like this. Oh boy, and now we see the Lings
Well.
skips around. He doesn't actually decide to pounce, and he decides to back up to the Nidus Storm with another Nidus Storm going up inside the main base. Archon gets focus fire down. The Zealots putting in some work, but is it actually going to be enough? Even the Oracle's getting pushed back thanks to the Queens.
Yeah, if he had like a Dark Shrine or something here, I'd feel so much better about it, but the shield gets triggered on that Immortal. Shield battery is out of energy, probes being pulled. They're not going to hold. The Queen's just added that fire base that's too good, and now the Immortal gets isolated. Ptitdrogo's out of tools. This Archon also trying to warp in. It's not going to see the light of day, and that's going to be it. 3-0, the first one we've had on either the NA or the European side.